Hello everyone, this is Vishakha Daga and today we have with us Gaurav Lodha, rank 14 Indian Forest Services. And through a one-to-one conversation with him, we will try to identify what we can do in order to secure a rank in Indian Forest Service. Hello Gaurav, how are you?
Hi, ma'am. I'm good. Feeling quite excited to have a conversation with you.
Oh, we are actually very glad about that. How are you feeling by the way after not only nailing Forest Services but getting such a good rank actually?
Yes, ma'am. It has been quite exciting feeling. Like the hard work that has been put from last few years. Eventually, it paid off, and particularly getting a good rank also makes me happy, my family happy, and maybe I can inspire few more people to get such a good rank.
Definitely you do. Like you can inspire more people, but I would love to know key what inspired you to prepare for like forest services.
Ma'am, there were a number of reasons. Since when I was in college, I tried out working in various private sector organization, NGOs, startups, to find where my actually interest is. And over the period
Hmm.
of time, I realized I like doing something that is technically sound, challenging, and has some kind of resource management aspect. So I think all
Okay.
these things connected quite well with the Indian Forest Service, and that's why I pursued it.
So were you only inspiring for Indian Forest Service or did you gave the exam for in civil service as well?
Yes, ma'am. I gave civil services also. I had interview also for that, but I missed the final list by 5 marks in the civil services exam.
So I hope Indian Forest Service turned out to be very good for you. So let's move ahead and ask some technical questions. But before I move on to that, like I would like to ask you one question. When did you which attempt was it for you when you finally made it to forest service?
Ma'am, this was my fourth attempt. I graduated in 2019 and gave my first attempt in 19 itself without preparing. And so I
Okay.
basically wasted one of my attempt. And then I have been seriously appearing from the last 3 times. So it is a third attempt as such from preparation point of view.
Okay. So were you while you were giving exam, were you working simultaneously?
Not exactly working with a private sector or job as such, but recently I was awarded a patent also. So I was working on my patent, which I did in my final year of my project. So that
Okay.
was something I was simultaneously working. And personally, also I was trying to make myself fitter and better with each passing day. So yoga and other few stuff I was doing continuously.
Oh, that is very refreshing, interview I'm taking today because it's always about I've taken 1 year leave in something. I was finally dedicated, but you were pursuing so many interests like NGO simultaneously, pursuing a patent and then doing what not. So let's now jump into UPSC preparation process. So since it has two aspects, number one is the static aspect, another one is the current affairs. What was your strategy to prepare for the current affairs?
There were few things that I have been following quite diligently. First is newspaper. So newspaper is something everyone recommends, but it is generally the Indian Express or the Hindu that people recommend. But I was slightly outlier, you can say. I used to read the Hindustan Times quite religiously from a long period of
That's
time.
right. Huh.
And secondly, I did not rely too much on the current affairs magazine because over the past few years, the trend has been changing and UPSC has been asking questions which are not in our traditional current affairs booklets. So for
Hmm.
me, it was more of a kind of evaluating myself and exploring on the internet, reading more and more stuff. I like reading a lot, so I kept on exploring different things, whatever term was in news, to expand my knowledge base rather than just relying on current affair magazine. And newspaper also, I picked a different newspaper what is usually suggested. So this was my current affairs strategy.
So actually, this is very wonderful because everybody talked about the competition is always between whether Express or Hindu, but you just went with a different choice. Also, I would want to know, while you were like studying different newspaper, were you making notes or like how were you preparing your notes for the current affairs examination? Since you were not definitely reading the magazines too.
Yes, ma'am. I have been quite close to technology. All my notes are online. So I used to make very short notes from the newspaper, and that was different for mains and prelims. So whatever important stuff I found relevant from a newspaper, I used to note down either general studies paper wise or prelims note was separate, and it was very limited, like at max 2 to 3 lines every day, not more than that.
Oh wow, that's actually impressive. That lesser is better, and very different approach. Actually, that's what I'm hearing. And like, what I'm very curious to know which application were you using to actually make notes?
Ma'am, I used to make notes on Evernote, and for PDF, like I used to highlight in the newspaper. I used to read a e-copy, PDF copy of the newspapers, and I used to extract
Hmm.
notes from the newspaper itself, so that I can save my time
Hmm.
without typing the notes. So I used basically Foxit Reader from the PDF reader and Evernote to make my notes.
So that's actually very unique and innovative approach. Now let's come to the part which is static, which is like I hope like I'm not hoping it's actually generally the same for everyone. What was your approach to read the static part in the civil service examination?
Here also, I was slightly different. As I mentioned, like I used to read a lot, so I did not follow the strategy that read one book and revise it 10 times, 15 times. For me, it is
Okay.
like read 10 books, 15 books, and revise them at max 2 to 3 times. So I followed a lot of books. I read a lot of books so that my knowledge base expands and I have a holistic understanding of a subject.
Okay, that's very different approach to any other like aspirants I have talked to. And and for them also, were you making notes or it's like just reading the book was enough?
Ma'am, it was from subject to subject basis. It varied. Like for few subjects, I made the notes like environment, science, tech, and for subjects like polity, history, I did not make extensive notes.
Okay.
So it was
So like
different
the
for
dynamic
subject.
subject. Okay, for the dynamic subject, you decided let me make notes for that. Those who are static and can be read from the book, you left it there.
Yes.
Other question I would like to ask is ki like when we move ahead and we think of giving paper actually, so we try to give the mock as well. So did you attempted any mock or you had a very unique approach in giving exam?
No, ma'am. Like mock tests are quite important. I used to give mock exams, but again, I followed a separate strategy for this. Like I used to only give a full length test, and I also used to give a full length test of at least 8 to 9 different coaching institutes, so that I have a very broad coverage of type of questions that UPSC may ask. And then
Hmm.
secondly, PYQs. So PYQ, everyone knows, is very important. But again, I
Hmm.
followed a different strategy for PYQs. Instead of doing completing last 25, 26 years of PYQ, I used to solve last 40 years PYQ. So
Wow, that's
that
a
helped
lot.
me. Uh, so yeah, that was something I followed, and maybe it helped me.
It is actually a lot. When you said 25 years, I remember like the student who have cleared and everything, they would say no, minimum 15 years. But then you said 25. When I asked you, you said 40 years. It's a lot actually. So you've solved so many papers.
And
So
ma'am,
like,
apart from that, I also solved a lot of UPSC other exams paper like CDS, NDA, CAPF. So that also I solved for at least 10 years.
did you
So
only
I
solve
had,
or also gave those exams?
no ma'am, I just solved them. I did not appear for them.
Okay, you did not. That's actually a very different approach. Another questions like moving ahead, I would want to ask you these days, and especially to you, I would definitely ask this question. The pattern is changing, and students are going into the examination hall and coming out with a very sad face. It's like the maybe the static is not relevant, maybe the current is not relevant. They're very confused about the sources, and they're very confused about strategy, how to approach the paper. So, what would you advise to them, to those students?
Ma'am, first thing is exam temperament. I know a lot of people who are quite bright, who have a lot of good knowledge, who have done a lot of practice, but during exam day, they get anxious or they get nervous and they end up not clearing the exam. Otherwise, they are quite good. So, first thing is you have to keep yourself calm and cool during the exam time. That is very important, especially
Hmm.
in these times when UPSC every year is giving some unique set of questions, something that is not in our traditional syllabus. So keeping
Hmm.
calm in exam, I remember during my actual exam time, I used to smile on each and every question कि UPSC क्या पूछ रहा है, मतलब चाहता क्या है. लेकिन that is something you have to keep yourself happy and confidence while giving the paper. Second thing
Hmm.
is practice, a lot of practice. So when you have done a lot of practice, confidence naturally it will increase. So
Hmm.
practice and doing the right practice is also important. कि आप क्रिकेट
Hmm.
खेलने जा रहे हैं, आप बास्केटबॉल की प्रैक्टिस करके नहीं जाओगे. So
True.
importance of PYQ is very important. Like you should know how UPSC is asking questions. So these two
Hmm.
things I think made me different. And thirdly, again giving exam from the center I used to give from my home. So I am from
Okay.
Jodhpur, Rajasthan, and I did not
Hmm.
give from Delhi as such. So I think
Hmm.
giving from Delhi also adds a lot of pressure on you because a lot of students are
Exactly.
just sitting and trying to read and read even just half an hour before the paper. So I used to
Hmm.
go home, relax. Even I used to watch a movie a day before, so just to
Okay.
keep myself calm. And then I
Hmm.
used to give prelims ka papers. So this is my
This is
strategy.
a very balanced and calm approach, I would say. Moving ahead to another aspect, that is CSAT. I'm talking to aspirant and they are saying ki we are not worried about GS to an extent. We are worried about CSAT because there are students who are actually getting 100 plus in GS1, but the CSAT is completely. It's like it's very difficult to qualify. How do you approach it, and what would you advise to students?
Yes, ma'am. CSET is getting tougher with each passing year. But
Hmm.
again, like I'm from engineering background, science maths background, so I didn't face
Hmm.
too much difficulty, and I have been scoring more than 100 almost in all of my three attempts. So the thing is, I
Wow.
guess practice again. Maths is something that you cannot mug up or learn formulas and just apply. You have to practice a
Hmm.
lot and consistently. You have to practice like maybe
Hmm.
1 hour, 2 hours every day, and you have to
Hmm.
find out the weak areas, especially topics like probability, permutation combinations, or number theory,
Hmm.
which are slightly difficult. So we need to practice them a lot so that the fear of associated with that those questions or mathematics as such is eliminated. And secondly, the comprehension part. So you have to find a right balance that you have to attempt both maths and English so that you have a right amount of questions to qualify CSAT. I see generally people just attempting maths or English and
Hmm.
trying to qualify CSAT paper. But that I think is not
Hmm.
a good approach. You should attempt both. And again, I see people taking questions on ego. कि भाई ये तो मैं करके ही आऊंगा इस क्वेश्चन को, and they end up wasting a lot of time. So that is
Hmm.
something also that people should avoid. If they are able to solve within a limited time, they should do it, or else just move on and do another question. So these are few things people should keep in mind.
Exactly. Find a balance between comprehension and mathematics.
Mm.
Time management is also very important, and letting go what you can't do. Move ahead. This is very
Yes,
good
ma'am.
strategy. Moving ahead to actually mains part. That's where forest services actually is very different from civil services. Especially the paper, from paper one is very GS. People usually study from the civil service portion only. Paper two actually, like from where it becomes like English comprehension, like pre writing and everything. How did you actually approach the paper, and what were the sources? Because there is no definite source for that paper.
Yes, ma'am. In this, English is not qualifying, and actually the marks are added. So
Hmm.
I diligently studied English for forest exam, and I
Hmm.
used to devote at least 1 hour every day just before sleeping for English. So,
Hmm.
like first part is essay. So essay part is
Hmm.
similar to the CSE general mains exam. Second
Hmm.
part is grammar and comprehension part. For that,
Hmm.
ma'am, I followed Renan Martin. So there's a book
Hmm.
known as Renan Martin, which is quite famous, and we study a lot during even our school time. Like English medium schools, a lot of teachers suggest that book. So even my ma'am suggested that book to me, and so a lot of topics like idioms and phrases, homophones, active passive voice, direct indirect speech, précis writing, unseen passage kind of questions. So this book has a lot of all these things are covered in this book quite comprehensively. So I used to
Hmm.
follow that, and a lot of material is also available on internet. Like I didn't
Hmm.
follow any specific book as such, but whatever topic I had some lack of clarity or lack of conceptual understanding, I used to simply Google search and find videos on YouTube. So I extensively again use technology here, social media here, YouTube, Google search, so that I can find and understand the topic. So that's the way I approached English, man.
This is very good approach. Also, I would like to ask you, were you able to practice some paper before going to final exam? Like, did you practice means answer writing before going to the Indian Forest Service?
I did not write papers as such, but I used to brainstorm questions. So
Hmm.
again, I relied completely on the PYQs of the Indian Forest exam.
Hmm.
Me and one of my roommates, like we both had forest. So every day, like 1 hour after dinner, we used to sit and solve PYQs. So we
Hmm.
used to brainstorm so that we can recall whatever we have read and see what topics are being consistently asked by UPSC, so that we can
Hmm.
read more in that and prepare. So that was
Prepare
my
something.
start. Yeah.
That's a good strategy, actually. Now let's move ahead to second, the other part of the main. So that is the optional part, in which there is no not one but two optional for the forest services. First of all, I'll ask what optional did you choose for forest services and why?
Ma'am, I had chemistry as one of my optional, and the second optional was forestry.
Where did you
And
graduate? What was the subject of graduation basically?
ma'am, I have done BTech in civil engineering from IIT Madras, and
Okay.
chemistry and forestry were not my graduation subjects.
Because chemistry is a very vast subject and required like master level of knowledge. So why did you choose chemistry?
Chemistry, ma'am, like I had interest in chemistry when appeared for the JEE exam, and it was
Hmm.
quite strong for me. And also for civil services, also I have my chemistry as my optional. So
Hmm.
it was similar for both forest and the civils. So I took this common subject as chemistry. And secondly,
Okay.
forestry I took because a lot of guidance and material is available, and it helps a lot during the actual training part, and when you become an officer, a lot of understanding from the
Hmm.
forestry helps you in the actual service, and
Hmm.
it can be covered in this short span of 2 months. So I pursued these two subjects because of these reasons.
Forestry, I understand, can be prepared in a short span of 2 months. But can chemistry be prepared in 2 months? Because only 2 months you have. So how much time did it take for you to actually prepare chemistry? And did you have the same optional in civil service as well?
Ma'am, it is very, very challenging to prepare chemistry in 2 months. Like until and unless you have a same optional in the civil service, it is, in my opinion, actually impossible to do chemistry, because chemistry
Right.
itself will take at least 6 months to complete it. And
Hmm.
yes, I had the same optional in civil services. That's why it helped me during the forest exam also. Else, it
It
had
does
been
make sense.
very
Hmm.
difficult. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, now it makes sense key because those who are preparing for forest services within 2 months, they would never
Mm.
dare to take chemistry as a subject,
That's
especially who doesn't have a graduation background. So another question I would ask is key, like if you have not taken the same subject as in civil services, generally, which is not the case in forest services, are 2 months enough? Because many students give up. They clear the forest prelims but do not write the forest mains because they don't have enough confidence that within 2 months we can actually prepare the two optionals or the what is material that is required.
Yes, ma'am. It is. It becomes quite challenging because first of all, civil services mains is also very exhausting, and
Hmm.
to become normal, we need at least a break of 1 week or 10 days, and by that
Hmm.
time we are short of time. And secondly, we have
Hmm.
to prepare technical optionals. So technical
Hmm.
optionals take some time. They are not very small, and they require understanding, a lot of understanding. And thirdly, we have to read English and GS also, because
Hmm.
marks are added for these papers. So it is very
Hmm.
short time, and we need to have very balanced approach. Like we have to balance all six papers equally so that we can
Hmm.
score maximum marks. And I would definitely say people that don't lose hope that you have very less time, because I have friends, I know people who have cleared within those 2 months, and they prepared two optionals actually, two new
Hmm.
options, two technical optionals, and they got good rank, good marks. So it is quite doable, but we should be in positive frame of mind, and we should be assured कि मैं मेहनत करूंगा तो मुझे फल मिलेगा. So that is something I would
Hmm.
say to.
It is a very good advice, actually. Now let's move to third aspect of the exam, that is interview. And generally said ki what you write in depth is actually also determine ki how you're going to answer in interview. Did you take any external help while filling the depth questions, or it's like you can do it on your own? And what are the precautions that you took while you were filling the depth?
Yes, ma'am. I took external help. I especially I knew few of my friends and seniors, like friends who were giving interview with me, and few seniors who have already qualified. So I took their
Hmm.
guidance, see what should I write and how much and in what way I should write. And
Hmm.
I took also help of coaching institutes
Hmm.
to help me frame the things that I am writing in my draft in the correct way. And
Hmm.
secondly, precautions. Coming to precautions, first thing for me it was everything I had written was truth. Like I did not fake anything because I have seen a
Hmm.
lot of people writing things that they have never done in their life. So that is something I
Hmm.
would
Hmm.
say to all of the people who are preparing or doing while filling draft. They should not write anything that they have not done in their life because UPSC board members are quite smart. They have a huge experience of at least 20 to 30 years. They will
Hmm.
catch in a minute that if you are telling something truth or if you are trying to fake something. And
Hmm.
second,
Yes.
try to I try to show various aspects of my personality in different ways so that I can present myself as a multidimensional person. And
Hmm.
actually, I ended up getting one of the highest marks in the interview part of the
Wow.
exam.
Hmm. I should
So,
definitely ask you the more questions about interview. Especially this one question. Generally, students have this fear inside them that they have given 3 years for the exam, 4 years for exam, and how will they justify that gap in the depth and if the question is asked in the interview? Were you scared of the same thing? And if that is the case, how did you manage?
yes, ma'am, definitely. They generally we have a gap of 3 to 4 years, like when we prepare for the exam. But
Hmm.
I was not scared because I was honestly and diligently preparing for the exam. And even
Hmm.
they know that this exams required a lot of effort and reading. Like it's very difficult
Hmm.
to crack the exam in the first attempt itself. So I don't
Hmm.
think they never ever judge a person on the basis of the number of attempts he have made. Rather, they actually test the personality. And I have given interview for both civils and the forest, and I know that.
Great.
My marks were not based on the fact that I am giving my fourth attempt. They were based on my answers, my personality, and the way I was handling the situation. So that is my advice to everyone.
This is actually very good, especially to the people who are actually this discourages them after some time because it's a gap and gap becomes huge for people. Um, Moving to next aspect, that is, did you take any mock interviews before going to final interview, or you thought your personality is actually fine?
No, ma'am. I took a lot of mock interviews to understand whatever mistakes I was doing, how to polish myself, how to bring out my actual personality in the actual interview. So
Hmm.
mock test I took a lot of in lot of institutes so that my fear or nervousness gets out and I could actually give a personality test rather than a kind of question answer round that happens. So it
Right.
helped me a lot. Yes.
So for you, mock was basically about reforming the personality, then actually enhancing the quality of answer. That was more important.
Yes, ma'am. It was a mix of both, improving myself and my answers. Both the aspects were there. And third was knowledge. So there is a scope of improvement of knowledge improvement in every mock interview because we face
Hmm.
new questions every time we go. So all these things helped me a lot, ma'am.
So, and then moving ahead, like for the interview preparation, what would you advise to people, because there are many people who are going to write mails and then after going for interview, what is the you will advise them to strategize your interview preparation in such a way so that you don't lose time and you have plenty of like strategy at your hand. So, what would you advise them?
Yes, ma'am. Like interview is also a dedicated part of the exam, and we should not take it lightly. First thing
Hmm.
I did was I made a group of three students, like two of my more friends who were giving a
Hmm.
forest interview. So every day
Hmm.
we used to sit at least 2 to 3 hours every day during night, and we used to
Hmm.
discuss transcripts, the previous year
Hmm.
questions again. So that
Hmm.
helped us to move and get a right direction, what we should read
Hmm.
and what all we should not read And secondly,
Hmm.
we used to make notes, like because forest service examination, it is a kind of technical service, and they will expect you to give exact answers. And so we
Hmm.
used to make notes. Again, we used to make online notes so that we can revise them, and all three of us could simultaneously add value to it. So that reduced
Hmm.
our time, increased our efficiency. And then after preparing some basic notes, we used to take peer interviews, like two of
Hmm.
us used to sit and ask questions to the third one, like some kind of similar to UPSC mock interview, original interview
Hmm.
pattern. So that
Hmm.
helped us to evaluate ourselves, give reviews to each other, and improve
Hmm.
every day, so that that fear of speaking comes out. So that was our
Hmm.
strategy. And newspapers becomes very important, especially during the interview phase. So during
Hmm.
interview phase, I used to read at least three newspapers every day. So that is something, so that I can have a holistic understanding of whatever topic it is going. So these were the
Hmm.
few things we used to follow.
Very, like, very structural way you had a very structured way to approach the interview. Also, like, it's a very pertinent question. I would not miss it. Is actually, how was Forum IS helpful in the entire journey of you cracking such a good rank?
Yes, ma'am. Like I have been following ForumIAS. During the mains part, I used to rely quite a lot on the current affairs material. So because mains current affairs is very different from prelims current affairs. So
Right.
in mains, we need topic-wise notes, and they should be crisp and in a way that we can just read and reproduce during the answers. So
Hmm.
I referred current affairs of the ForumIAS, and during the
Hmm.
interview phase, I gave mock interviews at the Forum IS, and that
Hmm.
helped me a lot. Whatever feedback I got, like actually, Forum IS, it was my last mock interview with Forum IS, and then whatever confidence, whatever feedback I got, like I gave, the next interview was the real UPSC interview. So I
That
think
is
it
nice.
helped me a lot, and also it helped me to get good marks in interview.
Well, congratulations for your success. And like two or three concluding question I would ask before I end this is the lastly I would ask is, how was your actually interview experience? Were there any highs and lows? Low when you felt like I need to come above this. So like share some of the anecdote about that.
Yes, ma'am. Like high and lows in interview depends on our perception of ourselves during the actual interview. Because I know
Hmm.
a lot of people who judge themselves while giving the answer in real interview sitting. So that is something
Hmm.
that we should not do. We should not judge ourselves while giving answers. So it is
Right.
either a good answer or you don't know. You simply say you don't know.
Hmm.
It was Suman Sharma ma'am board, and it started with banking sector. So it was
Hmm.
nowhere related as such to forest or current affairs, but the ma'am asked me questions related to banking. And first few
Hmm.
questions I had to say no, because I had no clue on the kind of questions ma'am was asking. But
Right.
I did not feel demotivated or disheartened because of saying no, because after
Hmm.
that almost all the questions I answered. So that is
Hmm.
something that we should not worry while giving the actual interview questions, because after
Right.
that ma'am asked questions on forestry, and I am from Jodhpur, Rajasthan, so a lot of questions on Jodhpur, Thar Desert, and
Hmm.
one of my hobbies was related to food. So ma'am,
Hmm.
like the board member asked me about questions on food also. So that was
Hmm.
something it helped me.
Moving to the last section of the interview, that is, many students are actually writing in mains this year, and they have seen fear, skepticism, and doubts, self doubts as well. And generally, the journey is very long. What is the one advice that you'd like to give to them in order to keep up the motivation, or any strategy point that you think that is something will help the student?
Yes, ma'am. Unfortunately or fortunately, the UPSC journey is quite difficult, and it takes a lot of toll on our physical and mental health. So I
Hmm.
particularly followed a disciplined routine. So that is something it helped me a lot. Every day I
Hmm.
used to wake up around 6:30 a.m. and
Hmm.
alternate days, like I used to do jogging or running on one day and yoga on the other day. So I
Hmm.
would suggest everyone to do some kind of physical activity. That is very important, because your mind will work when your body is working nicely, and that will happen only if you do some kind of physical activity. And secondly,
Right.
ma'am, having a good group of friends is very, very important in this journey, because good friends can help you to even like our entire group can qualify in the final exam. So that is very
Hmm.
important to choose the right set of people. And third thing
Hmm.
is some kind of internal motivation should be there. You should not
True.
seek external motivation from time to time to push yourself, because
Hmm.
this exam is quite difficult, and some kind of internal push should be there, that I
Hmm.
have to serve my country, I have to do something for the people of my nation, and
Hmm.
that helped me a lot in the entire journey.
Okay, so let me ask my last question. I've been saying that for long, but that will be last only. Is that generally student, that's what they believe, ki it's important to be cut off from social media, from your friends, and go in a very um like have some austerity and live in a very different, like isolated way in order to prepare. Were you also cut off from social media or friends in order to prepare for civil services throughout the journey of your 3 4 years when you're prepared for it?
No, ma'am, I was not completely cut off from social media, but I had limited usage of social media. So I was
Hmm.
active on WhatsApp, Telegram, and YouTube. I used to refer a lot of things on YouTube. So,
Hmm.
but I was not active on Facebook and Instagram as such, or Twitter also.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
think it is up to our self-control how much we want to be active on social media and how much we should use it. Because at the end of the day, our aim is to clear the exam and
Right.
make the best possible use of things that we have at our disposal. And second
Hmm.
is friends. So that is I'm completely against. Like, I had a lot of friends, because I used to prepare in groups, do group study and lot, and also
Hmm.
discuss a lot of things with my friends. So because
Hmm.
I don't think like that kind of person that can sit hours and hours in a single room and do the same process for the entire year.
Hmm.
So I had
True.
a lot of friends, and I used to do like a lot of things, not just study. We used to go weekly, or sometimes bi-weekly, go outside, watch movies, or explore food of Delhi, or whichever place I was. So that is
Hmm.
something, say, without like, see, man is a social animal. So if you keep
True.
yourself too much isolated, it might have some kind of repercussions on a longer term. So that
True.
is something I was not very uh, fond of, that I would make not no friends. Like, I had a lot of friends.
Well, Gaurav, it was very insightful talking to you, I must say, and I got a lot of insights from you, and so I wish would like our student would also get. And we from Forum IAS wish you well for the future, and again, congratulations for your success.